All right, welcome back. Welcome to the Ramen Pod with Rich and Todd.
Hey guys, so we're going to be going over the blue cards from the new set. So we're going to start out with Ancient Silver Dragon. He's a 6 and 2 blue. Creature Elder Dragon, an 8/8, so a big guy. He's got flying, so he's a bit evasive. Whenever this card deals combat damage to a player, you roll a d20, draw cards equal to the result. You have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. That's pretty decent. I mean, the effect, he costs a lot, but he's got a big payoff, so I think it's a good card.
Next is Fonts of Magic. It's 3 and 1 blue for an enchantment. It says instants and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each time you've cast a commander from the command zone this game. So this is another one of those, if you cast the commander multiple times, this is kind of like an add-on piece to that. This is okay. Obviously, this is for commander.
Just to add on, I think this would work really well with partners. So next is Elminster's Simulacrum.
Yep.
Simulacrum. 4 and 2 blue, it's an instant. For each opponent, you create a token that's a copy of up to one target creature that player controls. I would say it's okay. It's good for if you've got multiple opponents. But if you've only got one opponent, I think it costs too much. There's other cards that can do the same thing. All right, moving on.
Next is Kindred Discovery. This is a reprint, actually. It's a 3 and 2 blues for an enchantment. As Kindred Discovery enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Obviously, you're going to choose the creature of your tribe. This is for tribal. And then whenever a creature you control of that chosen type enters the battlefield or attacks, draw a card. Yeah, this is a solid card. You can't really use it for too much else, but this is solid for tribal.
Next, we got Displacer Kitten. Love the name. It's 3 and 1 blue. Cat Beast. It comes with Avoidance. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, exile up to one target non-land permanent you control, then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. So this is pretty good for enter the battle, leave the battlefield, abilities. Pretty solid card for its ability. So moving on.
Next is Tomb of the Horrors Adventure. It's 5 and 1 blue. It's an elf monk 4/4. And it says, when Tomb of the Horrors Adventurer enters the battlefield, you take the initiative, and whenever you cast your second spell each turn, copy it. If you've completed a dungeon, copy that spell twice instead. You may choose new targets for the copies. So this is pretty good for any spell slinger deck. It is quite expensive, but it does have potential.
Okay, so next we got Gale's Redirection. It's a 3 and 2 blue instant, and we're back to that d20 thing here. So first we got exile target spell, then roll d20 and add that spell's mana value. You've got 1 to 14. You may cast the exiled card for as long as it remains exiled, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast that spell. 15 plus, you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost for as long as it remains exiled. So I'd say that's a pretty decent card. It's a little wordy, but again, good for spell slingers. Moving on.
Wizards of the Fae. It's 3 and a blue for a 3/3 human wizard. It also has a Myriad. So that's whenever the creature attacks. It also, for each opponent other than that defending player, you may create a token copy, and that attacks that as well. And then, of course, it exiles at the end of combat. Stapled onto it, it says instant of sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. So that's always nice. And then you may cast sorcery spells as though they have flash. So that's also very nice. This is actually a very solid creature for any format.
So next here we got Shameless Charlatan. It's a 1 and 1 blue. Legendary enchantment. It's a background. So your commanders that you own have for a cost of 2 and a blue. This creature becomes a copy of another target creature. So that's actually that would be really strong in any kind of spell slinger. I would say it would be good for um, just obviously commanders in general, but for the cost and what it does, I think it's a pretty decent card.
And next is Gale, Waterdeep Prodigy. It's 2 and 1 blue for a 1/3 human wizard, legendary. And it says, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand, you may cast up to one target card of the other type from your graveyard. If the spell cast from your graveyard if your graveyard this way would be put into your graveyard, exile it. Also, you can choose a background. So this is actually obviously spell slingers, and then you could also have what we just mentioned, same as Charlatan, as its background, and then copy that as well. It is mono blue, but it has potential.
All right, so moving on, we got Illithid Harvester. Illithid's one of my favorite. So we've got it's an adventure for X and 2 blue. It's a sorcery. Tap X target creatures. They don't untap during the controller's next untap steps. So I'd say it's good for defensive, but eh. Then we go on to Ceramorphosis. Ceramorphosis, yeah. When a Illithid Harvester enters the battlefield, turn any number of target tap non-creature tokens face down. They are 2/2 horror creatures. So this is kind of good for kind of getting rid of your opponent's commanders. Yeah, I think it's a solid card for what it does.
Next is Robe of the Archmagi. It's 2 and a blue for an artifact equipment. And it says, whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you may draw that many cards. That's pretty solid. I also am digging the artwork on it. It's equipped 4. That's kind of steep, but if you look at it a little further, equipped shaman, warlock, or wizard is only 1. So this could be for any tribal using shaman, warlock, or wizard. And then dealing damage to draw cards, that's just up Blue's alley. This is narrow, but in the right deck it could be good.
So next we got Juvenile Mist Dragon. It's a 3 and 2 blue. It's got flying and 4/3. Its effect is Confounding Clouds. When this card enters the battlefield, for each opponent, tap up to one target creature that player controls. For each of those creatures doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. So for the cost, you got a dragon, 4/3 flying. It's not bad, and it also has a defensive ability, just tapping out your opponent's creatures. So I think it's a good card.
Bane's Contingency. It's 1 and 2 blues for an instant, and it says counter target spell. If that spell targets a commander you control, instead counter that spell, scry 2, then draw a card. Yeah, this is really nice. It's a shame that it had to be 2 blue, but hey, in mono blue, this might be an auto include.
Next we got Candlekeep Inspiration. It's a 4 and 1 blue sorcery. Until end of turn, creatures you control have base power and toughness XX, where X is the number of cards you own in exile and in your graveyard that are instant cards or sorcery spells and or have an adventure. I think that's a pretty decent offensive spell, especially in spell slingers, where you don't have too many creatures, but you're going to go in for the kill. So yeah, pretty good card. So now we're going to move on to the next bit.
Next one is Mystery Key for 1 and a blue. It's a artifact equipment. It says whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, sacrifice Mystery Key. If you do, draw 3. And the equipped is only 1. This is a little too narrow, being that it does draw you 3 for 3, basically. But you do have to get in with damage, and then you can only use it once. I'm going to say this is a bad card.
Okay, so next we got Modify Memory. It's a 4-1 blue sorcery. You exchange control of 2 target creatures controlled by different players. If you control neither creature, you draw 3 cards. So in hindsight, it's a 4-1 blue. Draw 3 cards. Obviously, this is going to be good for Commander. This could kind of mess up some strategies. So for the cost and for, messing with your opponents and drawing 3 cards, I think it's an alright card.
Yeah, next one is Sapphire Dragon. It's 5 and 2 blue, but it has a adventure on it. So you could use the adventure Psionic Pulse. It's 2 and a blue for an instant. Counter target non-creature spell. So it's a little bit overcosted, but it is stapled onto a dragon. So, you get 2 cards for 1, so I guess they had to make it a little bit more than what it should be, but after that, you could play it for its dragon side, and that would be 5 and 2 blue for a 5/6 dragon, which is pretty decent. It's flying, and then whenever Sapphire Dragon attacks or blocks, scry 2. So that's a pretty decent effect stapled onto it, and then you have the bonus of having 2 cards in 1. Do I wish Psionic Pulse was a little cheaper? Yes, but, I think it's decent.
You've also got a lot of cards in blue that end up minusing the cost of your instance. So, yeah, that's not bad. Moving on, we got Moonshade Pixie. It's a 3-1 blue. It's also an adventure. Its instant ability is a 1 in a blue. Up to 3 target creatures gain flying until the end of turn. This would be kind of okay for pushing for game. But I'm not really too big of a fan because a lot of the cards in blue in general already have flying, at least in this set. So for its Moonshade Pixie side, it's a 2/2, and it's got flying. So there again, another flying. When it enters the battlefield, draw cards equal to the number of opponents who were dealt combat damage this turn. So, in hindsight, it's really just, cast the instant, get flying, hit damage, and then summon this out, and get draw. So, I think there's better cards that kind of do the same thing for drawing for less than a total of 6. So, I'm going to say it's kind of a bad card.
I'd say it's bad. It could have been really good, actually. If it was just 1 mana shorter, maybe like 2 in a blue, this could have been feasible. Or, what I would have liked is you could have kept literally everything, but keep it flying and flash, and that way combat tricks after it draw that many cards equal to the number of opponents who were dealt damage this turn. That could be good because you pay 4 and then you swing in. They don't really, maybe you have a lot of 1/1 flyers. Okay, I take 4 damage, whatever, and then you hit them with this, you paid 4 for 4 cards. I could see that. That makes sense. But I guess you could also play it on your second main phase as well, right?
Yeah.
But, on to the next one. Sailor's Bane. It's 7 and 2 blue. It's a 7/7 dragon turtle. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each card you own in exile and in the graveyard. That's an instant card, a sorcery card, or a card that has adventure. So this is actually pretty decent, and it has a Ward 4, and Ward being whenever this creature becomes the target of spells or abilities an opponent controls, counter that unless it pays 4. So it already has some evasion, and the cost seems high, and it is, but if you have a lot of instant sorceries or adventures in the graveyard, this can easily be 4 mana for a 7/7 Ward 4. I like it.
Yeah, very, very good in spell slingers. You're gonna have a lot of spells, instants, and everything in your graveyard already. So, and you kind of need the beaters.
Yeah. One last thing. This would have been very good if Murktide wasn't already out.
Yeah,
right.
That's very true.
Yeah. If Murktide wasn't out, this would have been very good. But Between the two, you got to go Murktide, but if you have room, yeah, this is feasible.
Well, when Murktide is out of standard, then this would probably be the new blue card for that.
That is true.
So moving on here, we've got Cone of Cold. It's a 3 and 1 blue sorcery. You roll a d20. For 1 through 9, you tap all creatures your opponent controls. 10 to 19, tap all creatures your opponent controls. Those creatures don't untap during the opponent's next untap. Or a nat 20, you tap all creatures your opponent controls. Those creatures don't untap to the next untap steps. And until your next turn, creatures your opponent controls enter the battlefield tapped. So this the only real reason to use this, in my opinion, would be if you're going to be attacking, or if you're kind of desperate to keep your field if you've got nothing else. I think this would be something I'd keep out of my decks for other things. There's better cards, so I think it's kind of a bad card.
This is a bad card. I wish it was just pay 4 and just tap all creatures your opponents control. Maybe even tap them all and then they don't untap for 4. But the fact that you don't know which is which, and you might get, a 1 through 9 instead of what you really want is nat 20. That's what I really want. But no, yeah, I agree. I would keep this out. Next one is Renari, Merchant of Marvels, 3 and a blue for a 2/4 Dragon Artificer. That might be the first Dragon Artificer I've ever seen. That might be a 1/1. Well, he is legendary. You may cast dragon spells and artifact spells as though they had flash. That's pretty good. And then he's also commander viable because you can choose a background. So he also has a pseudo partner with them too. If he this is good, but he is mono blue. So the dragon spells, first thought, oh, we could go dragon tribal because everything will have flash and everything like that. Yeah, but just mono blue. If you really want to stick to the dragon, should you put this in the dragon in a deck? Yeah, why not? I mean, I think it's good enough, especially if you have artifacts that ramp you out to get to the dragons, because dragons are kind of mana intensive. I think this is an okay include.
Alright, so next here we got Sword Coast Sailor. It's a 1 in a blue. It's an enchantment background. So commander creatures you own have, whenever this creature attacks a player, if no opponent has more life than that player, this creature can't be blocked this turn. I think there's better backgrounds to use for this. So just the fact that whenever a creature attacks a player, the creature can't be blocked this turn. Unless you're going to be attacking with something real big. I don't really like this one.
Next is Feywild Visitor. It's 2 and 1 blue for a legendary background. It says commander creatures you own have, whenever one or more non-token creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you create a 1/1 blue fairy dragon creature token with flying. Now, it's worth noting that it says a and not for each. So for that reason, I think it's not worth it.
So next we got another background. Commander creatures you own have room abilities of dungeons you have triggered an additional time. Now see, if you're basing your deck around initiative and you're including this, I would rather include this than the previous 2 backgrounds that we saw, just for the ability of triggering something twice. So moving on,
we got Val, Candlekeeper Researcher. It's 3 and a blue for a 2/3 human wizard with vigilance. And it also has a tap effect. When you tap it, you add an amount of colorless equal to Val Candlekeeper's Researcher's toughness, which is 3 in this case. This mana can't be spent to cast spells from your hand. Also, It can be your commander is legendary, and you could choose a background for it. This one actually has some combo potential because you could just increase the toughness of Val, and then you could also tap for more mana and then just keep doing this. It has potential, but I would probably make it more of a 99 card combo than having it as my commander.
Alright, so now we got Allura, Merry Thief. It's a 2 and a blue. Legendary Halfling Rogue. This card can also be your commander if you wish. Whenever you attack, up to one target attacking creature can't be blocked this turn. Return that creature to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. So it's got some evasion. In a way, it's also got the enter the battlefield, leave the battlefield. You do get a background. However, I think there's still better cards to choose as your commander. I think for its cost, it's a decent card.
Yeah, next one is Imoen, Mystic Trickster, 2 and 1 blue for a 2/3 human rogue wizard. It has Ward 2, off to a good start. At the beginning of your end step, if you have the initiative, draw a card. Draw another card if you completed a dungeon. And then also, you could use it as your commander because it has choose your background. And that is the third straight card we've had that is legendary and choose your background. I wonder if the rules committee later on might say that any legendary can have choose your background if it doesn't have a partner. We'll see.
It's a good point, actually. So moving on, we got Feywild Caretaker. It's a 4 and a blue orc wizard, 3/4. Whenever its creature enters the battlefield, you take the initiative. So we got another way of entering into the dungeon here. At the beginning of your end step, if you have the initiative, create a 1/1 blue fairy dragon creature token with flying. If you're basing it around initiative, so far there's been, I think, some better variations. However, if you do have initiative during the end step, you do get a 1/1 blue fairy creature token with flying. So for the cost and what it does, I think it's decent.
Next is Candlekeep Sage. It's 2 and a blue for a legendary enchantment background, and it says commander creatures you own have, when this creature enters or leaves the battlefield, draw a card. So this could actually be pretty good because if you have any blink effects or anything like that, that's just free cards. This is okay.
Alright, so moving on here, we got Contact Other Plane. It's a 3 and a blue instant. Here we go again with the D20. 1 to 9, draw 2 cards. 10 to 19, scry 2, then draw 2 cards. And then nat 20, scry 3, then draw 3 cards. I think the cost is kind of steep. I'd really rather it have been for this cost scry 3 then draw 3, or even scry 2 then draw 2. For the fact that it could just be 4 for 2, I think it's okay.
I disagree. In standard, this is awesome because 4 at the bare minimum, you're drawing 2. At the bare minimum,
I guess in standard, yeah.
Right? It's 4 for 2 instant, right? At the bare minimum. And then anything else, 10 through 19, you get to scry 2. So that's just upside. And then, of course, nat 20, that's just even more upside. An additional card and an additional scry. There are cards that we play that are 4 for 2 that people play all the time. This is a 4 for 2, again, at minimum, with some upside. This is actually pretty good. I like it. Next is Draconic Lore. It's 5 and a blue for an instant, and it says this spell costs 2 less to cast if you control a dragon. So it can potentially be a 4 mana spell for draw 3 cards. Now, like we were saying, it's 4 for 2. Obviously, this is just for dragons. This is like Dragon Tribal. You're not gonna play this for anything else.
Alright, so now we got Dream Fracture. It's a 1 and 2 blue. Counter target spell. Its controller draws a card, then you draw a card. I think there's probably better counters. There are better counters. However, in standard, it's probably pretty decent. If I just wish that if it costed one less blue,
Yeah, well, if
it would be really good.
Yeah, it would be a little too good though.
Yeah.
Because like 2 blue is literally counterspell.
Yeah.
It's too good.
Mm-hmm.
My only gripe, I do like the card. My only gripe is
The opponent draws a card.
Yeah, the opponent draws a card. But then you draw a card too. I don't know. It just feels like
there's better counters to that you can include that I wouldn't include this over.
Yeah, in standard this is good though. Any other format I'd stay away from. Grey Harbor Merfolk. It's 1 and a blue for a 0/3 Merfolk Rogue, and it says Grey Harbor Merfolk can't be blocked. And also, Grey Harbor Merfolk gets +2/+0 as long as you control a commander that's a creature or planeswalker. No, I don't like it at all, actually. Yeah, it can't be blocked, but it's a 0, and then you have to have your commander out. It's too narrow. I don't like it.
Alright, so now we got Kinku Artificer. It's a 2 and a blue bird artificer, 1/1. It's got Homunculus Servant. When this card enters the battlefield, you put 3 1/1 counters on up to 1 target non-creature artifact. That artifact becomes a 0/0 Homunculus artifact creature token with flying. So this guy, I think it's a decent card. You know, it turns whatever artifact you have, non-creature artifact, into a flying artifact creature that is pretty much off the bat a 3/3. So you get a 3/3 and a 1/1. Decent for the cost, I think. So total it would end up being a 4/4.
Alright, on to the next one. So the next one is Nimbleclaw Adept. It's 3 and a blue for a 2/3 Dragon Wizard. It has Bigby's Hand, tap ability, so you could tap, and the result is untap 2 other target permanents, activate only as a sorcery, and only once each turn. So it says any other permanents, so you could actually just pay 4, and then it could literally just untap you two lands if you really wanted to. So technically you could use this as a mana dork, or you could use this to give other creatures vigilance, more or less, pseudo-vigilance. That being said, 4 for a 2/3, you would have to have the creatures out to give them vigilance, pseudo-vigilance. And then 4 mana for a mana dork is way too high. Yeah, that's the reason it's a common. It's okay.
The only thing that I would say that this is kind of decent is blue doesn't really have much ramp.
Yeah, that's true.
So every turn, you're getting 2 extra blue.
Mm-hmm.
You end up casting all of your mana every turn. At the end of the turn, you cast this, stand 2 of your blue. Now you still have mana for negate.
The only thing I would say is that if you're in mono blue, as some people are, you already have a lot of mana rocks.
That's true.
So that kind of makes up for it.
So next here we got Pseudo Dragon Familiar. It's a 2 and a blue dragon, 2/1 with flying. Its ability is for 2 and a blue, you get to target creature gains flying until the end of the turn. For what it does, I think it's pretty decent. It is kind of a large cost though for the ability to grip, but you can cast it multiple times per turn. I don't really like it, to be honest.
I think it's actually the worst card I've ever seen. To be honest with you, of the whole set, this is pretty much the worst. It's 3 for a 2/1. That's bad. Mm-hmm. Dragon, okay, maybe you could reduce the cost, but it's a 2/1 flyer, and then you have to pay 3 to give something else flying. I mean, how about pay 3, make this unblockable? How about pay 3 when this attacks, you get a card? How about pay 3, scry 2? Literally anything else but that would have been awesome. But no, this is the worst I've seen in the set so far. Next one is Psychic Impetus. It's 2 and a white for an aura enchant creature. and the enchanted creature gets 2/2 and is goaded. And then goaded is it attacks each combat if able to, and it attacks a player other than you if able. Also, whenever enchanted creature attacks, you scry 2. This is a decent effect. +2, and goaded. The thing is, unless you're planning on using it as, putting it on your commander or something big already, because it's goaded, you have to attack. This is okay. This is alright.
It also can help you get rid of things that you can't really kill. Because you can target your opponent's creature. Now they have to attack. And if you got something kind of big, either way, it's you're going to be able to scry.
Either way, you have to scry. When you attack, they select the blockers, though. Mm-hmm. Which is my only problem with it being goaded, because it has to attack. And when it attacks, okay, it's a little bit bigger, but you might be running into a wall or something that has death touch. So now you just have something bigger, and maybe it's like a 2/2. You put this on it, now it's a 4/4. Congratulations. Now I'll block with my death touch, my 1/1 death touch that I don't care about. You know what I mean? It's
This would be decent if you're playing against multiple players, because then you target another player. They can't attack you with that. They still have to attack. You get to scry whenever they're attacking. So at the end of the turn, it's a 2/1 or 2 in blue for scry. So now we got Run Away Together. It's a 1 in a blue instant. You choose 2 target creatures controlled by different players. Return those cards to their owner's hand. For a 2 in 1, and you get to, send back 2 cards. Then I think, well, technically, if you're only against one player, then you're playing 2 to return 1. It's not really a bad card. I kind of like it.
It's decent. You gotta love the artwork on it. It's just some guy reading the minds, and of course the caption on the bottom: "True love means always knowing what's on the other's mind." Yeah, that's great. Next one is Stunning Strike. It's 2 and 1 blue for an aura. Also has flash, so your enchanted creature. When Stunning Strike enters the battlefield, tap enchanted creature and remove it from combat. As long as the enchanted creature isn't a legendary, it doesn't untap during its untap step. This could be a pseudo prison strategy. You could put it on someone's commander or something like that. Remove it from combat if it's a Voltron commander. It's a little 3 mana is a lot, but it does have flash. It does have some things going for it. It's okay.
Alright, so moving on now, we got a Serpent here, Sword Coast Serpent. It's a 5 and 2 blue, so kind of steep, but we'll see what it does. So it's an adventure, so you got 2 and 1. It's a 1 and a blue instant, return target creature to its owner's hand. For 2, that's pretty good. Now we got over to the creature side. It's a 6/6. So for 7, 6/6, and it's blue, pretty okay, and it's 2 cards. It can't be blocked as long as you've cast a non-creature spell this turn. If you're playing blue spell slingers, you've probably casted a non-creature spell this turn. So for what it does, the 2 and 1 large creature, it's a card snap pretty much. It's pretty good.
Yeah. Next one is Winter Eldraine. 2 for a 2 in blue for a 2/2 fairy elf wizard, and it has Gust of Wind, and that is when Winter Eldraine enters the battlefield, return up to 1 other target control creature to its owner's hand. This is okay.
Alright, that was a lot to say on that one.
No.
So now we got Young Blue Dragon. It's a 4 and a blue. These are some of my favorite creatures actually in D&D, blue dragons. Anyway, so it's an adventure. It's a 1 and a blue sorcery. Scry 1, then draw a card. Alright, that's pretty decent. You got 2 and 1 here, and it's a draw and a body. So 4 and 1 for a 3/3 flying. I don't like that side of it.
Honestly, I might just put this in there just for the
scry.
Pay 2, scry, draw a card.
Yeah, that's good right there.
I would have loved it if it was just pay 2, draw a card. That's cool. Just scry and then draw. Yeah, Well, the only caveat is it's sorcery. It's not instant.
Yeah.
But I think it's okay. Next one is Dragonborn Looter. It's 1 generic and 1 blue for a 1/2 Dragon Rogue. It's 1. It has an ability. You pay 1 and then tap it, draw a card, then discard a card. So of course it's a looter. It would have been nice to not have to pay 1, just tap and then draw a loot. It's decent. Maybe you put this in your rogue or something like that, tribal, and then you could draw and discard. Maybe for standard, nothing for anything else.
Alright, so now we got Oceanus Dragon. It's a 4 and 2 blue dragon, 3/5 flying. When it enters the field, tap target creature opponent controls and gout it. I think this is kind of circumstantial on using it. There's better dragons. Why include this if you have, the first dragon we talked about in this one is much better than this. I don't really like it, to be honest.
Yeah, and then it also gets goated.
Mm-hmm.
The artwork's pretty nice, though.
It is, yeah.
Apart from that, nah, yeah.
I was kind of hoping that it'd be really good because I like the artwork.
Yeah, well.
So moving on.
Moving on. Next one is Lapis Orb of Dragonkind. It's 2 and a blue for an artifact, and you tap it to add 1 blue. Also, when you spend this mana to cast a dragon spell, scry 2. This is pretty good. We might be able to mess around and put this in dragon tribal, their dragon decks, all of them commander, and then for standard, this makes all your dragons 1 less basically, and then you get to scry 2. So maybe you need land, maybe you need a dragon. This helps you do that. Yeah, I like it.
All right, so Tomorrow's Invoker. It's a 1 and a blue orc rogue 1/3. Its ability is I don't like that at all. That's probably worse than the one we just talked about.
Are you sure?
Yes. So you pay 8 and then you draw 2 cards. So you have to pay 10 just to draw 2 cards. I don't like it. That's terrible.
But Rich, you get a body, a 1/3 body.
It's pretty terrible.
Yeah, it is terrible. But you know what? If you have infinite mana.
If you have infinite mana, you can do anything else.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, next one is Blur. It's 2 and a blue for an instant. And it says, exile target creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. So it's basically Blink. And then you draw a card. So pay 3 to blink and draw a card. This is only decent if you have, you have a creature that has very good ETB triggers. 3 to draw a card. This is situational. It's okay.
All right, so now we got Goggles of Night. So 1 in a blue artifact equipment. So whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you scry 1, then draw a card, and it's equipped 2. So for 4, you get to scry 1 and draw a card. This is only really good if you've already got kind of a large body on the field. I don't really like this. There's better ways of scrying and drawing, but it is kind of recurring, so maybe in standard it's decent. Otherwise, I think there's better cards in Commander.
This would have been good if it just was an attack trigger, but it says deals damage.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it gets kind of left on for me. Next one is Sea Hag. It also has an adventure. The adventure is 2 and a blue for an instant speed adventure. Up to 2 target creatures each get +1/+0 until the end of turn and can't be blocked this turn. Okay, this could be okay. Then the creature side is Sea Hag. It's 4 and a blue for a 3/5 hag. And when Sea Hag enters the battlefield, creatures your opponents control get -4, -0 until end of turn. Which is not great at all, considering the first instant doesn't really go well with it, because you could have just made them unblockable. And then when Sea Hag comes in, it's -4, -0. It doesn't really do anything for you. Right? They're already unblockable. I'd say this is a bad card.
Alright, moving on to the final piece in the blue. We've got Aarakocra Sneak. And here is a 3/1 bird rogue 1/4 with flying. Whenever it enters the battlefield, you take the initiative. There's better initiative starters. For 1/4 with evasion costing 4, I don't really like it. There's better cards.
There are better cards. The only thing I'll say though is it is bird rogue, so you can put it in rogue tribal. You can decrease the cost on that in tribal. It's a 1/4, but you're really playing it to take the initiative. Because 4 for a 1/4 flyer is terrible.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, if you have an initiative style deck, this may be worth it. Otherwise, yeah, I'd keep it out.
Alright, well, that's the end for today for the blue cards. You can join us next time when we go over the black cards. Thank you for joining us. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Yep. See you later.